welcome longtime college basketball analyst and insider for ESPN, Duke alumnus, and former fifth-round NBA draft pick. And don't you forget it, Jay Bilas on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Jay, great to have you back on the show.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with your Twitter response to Jonathan Tavernari last week about rejoining the Bald Brethren, complete with the infamous eye-gouging picture. We have to put JT in timeout occasionally, so that was an appreciated post.
Yeah, I just don't know why he would want to leave the Brotherhood and go over to the dark side and have hair on that melon. That just doesn't seem like the right move to me when he was so much better looking with the bald head. Not that he's good looking at all, but he was better looking.
He shaved his head at BYU, and everyone's like, what's going on? So, yeah, he's bad. Decision-making. I don't know what's going on. Let's talk about the news with BYU yesterday as BYU cracks the top 25. Not a metric used in the tournament resume, but something BYU hasn't done since Jim Fredette played here in 2011. So what do you think that means for BYU Hoops right now, being number 23 in the AP poll?
Well, it means they're a good team. And I think, I got a chance to watch them for 4 or 5 days out in Maui, watch them practice and then watch them play in person. And that was without Yoli Childs. He was that ridiculous suspension for the NCAA for, having the audacity to go for a job interview. But I was really impressed with the way they played. They've got a number of different shot makers. They've got guys that can handle it, play on the perimeter. They move the ball, and they're good cutters. But they've got so many guys that can stretch you. And so you can knock down that many threes. It opens up cuts. It opens up drives. And I think Jake Toolson's one of the best shot makers in the country. Now with Childs back, it gives them an inside presence. So they're really what I would consider a complete team.
ESPN's Jay Bilas with us on BYU Sports Nation. You mentioned Maui, and you spent some time with Yoli Childs specifically. What kind of impression did he leave you with?
One, he's just a really nice man, and he is a man. We tend to call these players kids, and they're all adults. But he's just a great young man. And has got a terrific sense of who he is, and then he's also an outstanding player. But I think both those things are related, that he's a great teammate and wasn't sitting there. Like, I was more upset about his situation than he was. He was ready to move on. There was nothing he could do about it. I thought there was plenty I could do about it, which was complain about a ridiculous situation that was created by the NCAA for no reason. But, he handled it incredibly well. He was really supportive of his team and his teammates. And I don't think you're going to find a nicer person in anybody's uniform.
Last week you wrote about BYU as a Sweet 16 contender. What is it about the Cougs that makes you think that?
Well, much of what I said before, they're just so good offensively. I mean, they're not a great defensive team, but they guard. And the problem that they have is that they're not a great rim protecting team. So they can be had a little bit inside the arc, but they're such a good 3-point shooting team, and they take care of the ball so well. They provide themselves extra possessions by not giving the ball up. It's not like they're a great offensive rebounding team or anything like that. They do a very good job on the offensive end and control the game from that standpoint. They're not going to choke you off defensively. But in the tournament, I think they're going to be able to knock shots down. And they could do it from multiple positions. It's not like they just got 2 guys that make a lot of threes. They've got 5 or 6 guys that can hit a shot, and they can all handle the ball well. So they can expose teams that don't have multi-positional defenders, and they play really well together. So I think they've got a very good opportunity. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them in the second weekend.
Do you feel like seeding matters in terms of for BYU to try and get to a Sweet 16? Because right now for BYU, we're basically praying BYU just doesn't get an 8 or 9. Almost anything else would be way better than that, right? Avoiding a potential 1 in the second round.
Yeah, that's kind of the issue is, you want the best seed possible, but then there are certain seeds where it's crushing. You'd rather get a 10 than an 8 or 9. But, the one thing that you can't control is where you're seated. So it's not worth worrying about. I think what BYU just wants to do is keep playing, and fans can worry about it if they want to. I always love it when fans will come up and say, hey, should I be nervous? And I'm going, you can be nervous if you want to. That's because how you can be drunk if you want to. How you feel isn't going to have any bearing on the outcome of the game.
That's our audience, Jay.
It's how the players feel. I always thought, I'm ready for this game. Well, it really doesn't matter if you're ready. It matters if they're ready. I always enjoy that one. But, look, there's nothing anybody can do about that. That's going to be decided by the committee. And then the first day or two after the committee decides, we'll all complain about the decisions we don't agree with. But when we get to Thursday, everybody's got to play, and all those things go away. You don't worry about it as much.
ESPN's Jay Bilas on BYU Sports Nation. Right now, your colleague Joe Lunardi is projecting BYU as a number 6 seed in his latest bracketology. What's the realistic ceiling for this BYU team on the seeding line?
I think in the 5 range that's probably going to be where it winds up if you look at all the metrics. But all these things now are based upon if it ended today, and it doesn't end today. So if BYU, whether or not BYU beats Gonzaga, that's really the thing that is going to move the needle. So if BYU is able to beat Gonzaga at home and then can turn around and get to the final of the tournament, maybe beat Gonzaga again, that would greatly enhance the resume. That's really all that's left. Is don't slip on banana peels and see if you can knock off the big shot in your league. Other than that, there aren't a lot of high-value targets left on the schedule.
How do you see Gonzaga? 7 dudes averaging 10+. They're number 2 in the country. It's going to be a great environment. First ranked matchup between these two on Saturday night on ESPN2. How do you assess the Zags at this point?
Ridiculously good. They may not be quite as good defensively as they've been in some past years, but they've got so many playmakers. Corey Kispert's an excellent player that can really score, and he's strong, can put it on the deck. And I'm a big believer in their guard, Ryan Woolridge, who transferred in from North Texas. He's a stud. Joel Ayayi can really rebound from the guard position. And, I know Killian Tilley's not completely healthy, so I don't know if he plays or not. If he plays, that adds a different dimension to their team because he's a magnificent passer. But Filip Petrusev is one of the, I'd say, handful of the very best big guys in the country, and very difficult to deal with. So they've got everything. They may not be quite as good as the team that they had in, I think, 2017 that went to the title game and lost to North Carolina, but they're not far off of that offensively. They just don't have the same kind of rim protection as they had then with Zach Collins and Karnowski, who protected the entire lane. But they're legit. They're really good, and they're this year they're I think as good as anybody, especially offensively. They score 85 falling out of bed. They're really good.
Jay, BYU will host one of those banana peel games on Thursday against an improved Santa Clara game, and then, of course, the massive showdown with second-ranked Gonzaga on Saturday. What kind of chance do you give BYU to beat the Zags in front of 19,000 fans at the Marriott Center?
Much better than if they had 17,000 or 12,000. I think that's a great place to play, and it's a difficult place for any opponent. So, winning at home is a big test. You have to, when winning on the road is difficult, and especially winning at Gonzaga proved to be extraordinarily difficult. When you get the league champ on your home floor, you have to take a swing at them and knock them out. And BYU's capable of it, but they're going to have to play their best, I think.
In Maui, you walked on the beach and chatted with Yoli Childs. We were wondering if you wanted to follow that up with perhaps go on the slopes in Park City or something. Is that something you're interested in?
As long as I can snowplow down the hill, I'd be fine. I haven't skied since I was a little kid, and I don't like to be cold. So those are two things kind of cut against skiing for me.
I don't think it's going to work out.
Yeah, okay. The beach it is. We'll finish with this, Jay. In your opinion, does the West Coast Conference deserve 3 bids in the 2020 NCAA tournament?
I don't know. That's a hard one just because of who else is going to be in the mix. If there's going to be a year where multiple bids come out of the league, this is the one. You're talking about BYU, St. Mary's, and Gonzaga, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, BYU is in. I think Gonzaga is in. St. Mary's is the other question, and it's just to me this year. So the narrative has been this year that anybody can win on a given day. That we've got parity out there, and there's nobody that's separated and all that stuff, which I don't think is true. I think teams have separated. Baylor has lost one game. That's separation, and Gonzaga has lost one game. That's separation, but. If you go with this theory that anybody can win on a given day, then my question is, all right, how many given days have you had? And if you haven't had a lot of given days against some of the teams that have had a lot of given days, then you're probably not going to be in line to make the tournament field. And the problem that sort of the at-larges have is that a number of spots are taken up by automatic qualifiers that frankly aren't very good. And that's just the nature of the tournament. They take the league champions of these leagues that just don't have great competition in them. And so frankly, we don't have the 68 best teams in the tournament every year. We have, the 40 best teams plus a number of other teams that are given, sort of an e-ticket into the field. And some people think that's great. I don't have a problem with it, but I know better teams are being left out. So that these smaller conferences that frankly don't have as good a teams can have a game on championship week that seems exciting.
Jay, it's great to have you on the show again. We know how busy you are, and just to let you know, Jonathan Tavernari says he will shave his head if BYU makes the NCAA tournament. So we've got that going for us.
Yeah, then he's going to do it. It's just a question of when.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, guys.
Jay Bilas.